Hello everybody, my name is Akhilesh Balaji. Today's video will be a slightly different one. We won't be exploring the microbial world nor the vast expanse of outer space. Instead, we will be understanding the unperceivable. Yes, you guessed it, we're going to be jumping dimensions. But what is a dimension exactly? To put it simply, a dimension is simply a way of looking at things. So, there are infinite possible ways of looking at things or infinite possible dimensions. Today, we will be only talking about the spatial dimensions and we will not be moving into time. So, when I say the fourth dimension, I will mean the fourth spatial dimension, and in this case, the fifth dimension will be that of time. We organize these dimensions based on the number of ways in which they can be measured. For example, in the zeroth dimension, there are 0 different possible ways of measuring things. Whereas in the fourth dimension, there are 4 different possible ways of looking at things. Let's start off at the zeroth dimension, shall we? Right. The zeroth dimension, put simply, is simply a point. This point has no mass. This point has no space. It has 0 volume, 0 area. It cannot be measured. This is why it's called the zeroth dimension. There are 0 different possible ways of measuring things in it. Now, if we take lots of these points and we keep stacking them, right? One on top of each other, what do we get? Infinitely, we keep stacking them one on top of each other. We get a line. This line has no thickness, but it has a length. Do you see the paradox in this? A point has no volume. It has no length, no width, or no height. Yet it's possible to stack things of 0 volume together to get something that has a volume, or rather in this case an area. Here is a really good analogy. This is a cube. But we'll get there in a while. Think of this vertex as a point of having 0 mass or volume. If we kept stacking these points along this path, then we'll get a line. This line only has length, no width nor height. Now, if we kept stacking those lines along the next axis, then we would get a square. This square is 2-dimensional. It has no height, yet it has length and width. Now, if we kept stacking this square along the next axis, that is the z-axis, then we will get the cube. This cube has 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. Now, what happens if we keep stacking these cubes along the next axis? We'll get there in a while. As you might already know, these 3 axes or dimensions that I was referring to are commonly referred to as x, y, and z, right? That is length, width, and height. Now then, let's jump into the world of a 2-dimensional being. All right. Now, this 2-dimensional being is completely flat. He has no depth or height. He only has length and width. And he is living inside this flat plane, completely flat, right? Now, if I were to move any object inside that plane, he would see them as nothing but lines, correct? Let's think of it this way. If this is the creature living inside the plane, and this is another object, he is only able to perceive them as lines, no matter what the object is. So, if we were to bring a 3-dimensional object like this cube or a square this cube or a sphere and put it inside that plane, or rather pass it through that plane, all the 2-dimensional creature would be able to see would be 2-dimensional cross sections of that object. So to him, it would merely appear as if there was a line that was getting taller and shorter, taller and shorter. Now, if we were moving, take for example a sphere, right? So if we were passing the sphere through this two-dimensional plane as fast as we were moving it back, then all the two-dimensional creature would be able to see would be a line that was doing nothing if it was moved at the right speed. I hope you see where I'm going with this. We are three-dimensional creatures. Therefore, we must only see in two dimensions, correct? So we are three-dimensional creatures, and when you look around you, all you are seeing is two dimensions and the illusion of depth. Only four-dimensional creatures would be able to see in three dimensions. The same way as a three-dimensional object leaves shadows on a two-dimensional plane, three dimensions are leaving shadows on the second dimension. So, let's answer this question first. What would it be like to see in three dimensions and not in two dimensions like we do? Well, this is what a four-dimensional being might be able to see. He would be able to see above things, into things, through things, below things, basically everywhere there is to see in the three-dimensional world. The same way that if we took a flat piece of paper and we were able to see everything that's going on inside that plane. Now then, let's get to the topic of this video. What is a four-dimensional cube? Or a four-dimensional cube? This cube, for example, is comprised of a net, right? Of individual squares being folded together to form this three-dimensional object. Now, if I were to take many of these cubes and stack them up in the correct way, I would form a three-dimensional net of a four-dimensional cube. Now, this four-dimensional cube is called a tesseract. The tesseract is basically a cube inside a cube, but both of their corners are connected through the fourth dimension. This is how a four-dimensional hypercube looks while rotating or while it's being rotated in the fourth dimension. What you are seeing on the screen right now is a two-dimensional drawing of a three-dimensional projection of a four-dimensional object. Wait for a bit while that settles in your head. This image of the rotating tesseract looks weird to us only because we are puny three-dimensional creatures unable to perceive the magnitude of the four-dimensional world. Now, just imagine what a five-dimensional hypercube would look like. 6 dimensions, 7, 8, 9. This is starting to get a bit unimaginable, isn't it? Just imagine how much more intellectually capable higher dimensional beings might be. This is one good reason not to wage a war against 10-dimensional creatures. But remember, we are not truly able to perceive the magnitude of higher dimensions. All we are seeing are three-dimensional shadows of these higher dimensions. Who knows? Higher spatial dimensions may be the true nature of reality. See you in the next video.